Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting R programming tutorial. Today we'll be looking at data cleaning and manipulation, which is one of the most fundamental skill you can build as a data analyst anywhere in this world. Data cleaning is one of the core skills that has been expected from any any data analyst or data scientist. In fact, as long as you're working with data, you're expected to have an understanding of how to work, clean, and manipulate your data in order to maintain data integrity. In order for us to understand data cleaning in R, I have grouped data cleaning into two major categories. That is the independent cleaning functions and then the dependent cleaning function. You may not really find this in any textbook, in any handbook, R handbook, but it's one of the fundamental way I have carved out for me to understand data cleaning as long as regards to R programming. Now we have the independent and the dependent function. And in this dependency that caused the divide is based on a function known as mutate. I'm sure by now we might have used the function mutate, or maybe this is our first time. But if this is your first time or not, then get ready to explore this function with me. Now this dependency is based on this particular function. The dependent cleaning function do not require this thing called mutate, this function called mutate, in order for them to perform a particular task. Whereas the dependent cleaning function require, not just even require the mutate, they work inside of the mutate. So void of the mutate, they cannot perform any operation. That's for the dependent cleaning function. But we'll be looking at five independent cleaning functions and then five dependent. There are more. There's so many functions. In fact, there are more than 1,000 functions in R. But for our cleaning and as we are building a stronghold in R programming, we'll be starting with these five. And subsequently, we'll be doing other videos of other unique cleaning functions as it relates to data cleaning in R. So to look at our independent functions, we'll be looking at five, like I said. The first is called clean names. The second one is called rename. The third, select. Fourth, filter, and then distinct. We'll be looking at each of them and we'll be seeing how they work, and then we'll be using a data set as well to actually flow with them. Now, the clean names is a function used to standardize variable names. R has a way that it recognizes variable names, and one of the things that clean names does is that first it change all capital letters to small letters. I prefer its variable names to be in small letters rather than capital letters all through or title case, whichever one. I want everything to be in small letter. The clean names function also changes all spaces to underscore. So in aspects where we have, let's say, epic space number, if you run the function clean names function will convert epic space number to epic underscore number. It also removes all special characters. So in terms where you have brackets, you have dollar sign, you have at, it changes them to underscore. In order to understand this, let's look at a particular data set. So let me import the data set here. Um, Data set. Let's import a data set. The data set I want to import is called COVID raw. So in order to import, I will use. So let me see how the data set was stored. COVID West. So I want to use. Let me use. First, let me put the object name I want. So I want to save it as COVID raw. I use my pipe operator, right? And then use the function import, right? Which is under my real package. Load pacman p underscore load. Pacman helps me to load real verse. Real helps me to load and at the same time install my packages if they are not installed. So if I run this, yeah, so we're good to go. So it means my import function can now work. So import, we want to write my data set as it is in my project folder. So this is the data set COVID West. So to spell COVID space West, remember I have to write it as it is hyphen Africa dot xlsx, then I run. So my data set has been imported. That's why I can see it in my environment. So I can also view it here to see how it looks like. So if we view this data set, we can see that we have something called epic number. We have said all of them are in title cases. Every these data sets are all in title cases. So we have special characters, we have brackets, we have spaces as well. So let's see what happens when we run clean names on this particular data set. So our clean names is here. So we said in order to do so, we have our data set called COVID raw. So COVID raw, raw, then we pipe it into clean names. I've explained how to use the pipe operator. Clean names. Clean names inside the janitor. So we run clean names and we want to save it to COVID underscore clean as our new object. So these are our new objects because if we run this, R will just bring the results in our console, the output in our console. But if we save it to an object like we always mention, it will appear in our environment and we can see the changes there. If I run this line of code, clean names, we can see that we have COVID clean here, and then when we click it, we'll see that epic number that had space, the space was converted to underscore, and then the epic e was converted to lowercase. Same thing, everything was converted to small letters, lowercase. Then we see the bracket here was converted to lowercase. The bracket also, so spaces are converted into low to underscore, bracket to underscore, special characters to underscore. So that's one of the advantage of the clean names. It helps to standardize column names. So it's a very crucial function. In fact, it's one of the first function that I always run and make sure that I first of all standardize all my variable names before I start my cleaning proper so that I can call them when I want to. Great. So that's all about cleaning. So the next cleaning function we want to look at now is called rename. And how does rename work? Rename works by actually changing variable names or column names in our data set. That's one of the beautiful way. So let's look at our data set, COVID raw. So let's say we want to change sex to gender, or we want to change marital status to maybe something like relationship status, or maybe there's something we really want to change, right? That will resonate with our analysis. We the function to use is rename. And how do we use rename? It's simple. The template is dataset. You pipe it into rename. Function. Then first of all, you put in what new name equal to old name. So this is the template. I have to put this in hashtag. Use the template. Data set, pipe it into rename, and then we'll put the new name of the column we want, and then it's equal to the old name. So if following this template, to change sex to gender, it will be what our COVID, our COVID clean. which is this one we have above here. We pipe it into what? Rename function, and then the new name we said we wanted is what? Gender, and then to be equal to what's the old name? Sex. So if we run this, it's going to what? Print in the console. So let's run it and see if the changes also appears there. So COVID clean not found. Okay, so we've not run this here. So we've run this. So this has been standardized. So when we come here and run this code again, so we'll go to um our sex column and see if it has changed. So we can say it has changed to gender. But like we said, we want our changes to be saved in the data set in our environment. So in order to do so, we will have to assign this to an object name. And since we're trying to do a cleaning pipeline here, I will assign it to the same object name, which is COVID underscore clean. Assign it to this entire thing. So I'm saving this entire thing inside this COVID clean as well. So we keep building on this COVID clean, keep cleaning on this COVID clean, and then if I run this, you can see that this COVID clean it has updated. So if I want to see my changes, I click. So let's convert this to if I want to see my changes, I click here and I see that sex was changed to gender. That's one of the amazing things that they renamed. Can use to change, you know, variable names individually. So you can also change marital status using the same change country. If there's any other word we want for weight in kg, we can do so with weight in kg. Great. So the third one we have is select. So allow me to define select function using the word select. Select is used to select desired variables of interest. And select works in four major ways. The first is used to select desired variables of interest. Second is to deselect unwanted variable. The third is to reorder variables. Then the fourth is to conditionally select variable using the select helper functions. We'll be looking at them, but let's look at them individually. So the first one we said it is used to select variables of interest. So in order to select variables of interest, this is a template. Data set, pipe it into what? Select, and then you put in the variable of interest you want. So let's try that to see how it works. So let's say the first one, variable of interest. Using our data set, the template is what? Data set, pipe it into what? Select, and then we can choose the variable we want. So we can say variable 1, variable 2, and maybe variable 5, and run. And we'll have a result. But let's see this practically. So let's say we want to select, let's see our COVID clean now. Let's say we want to select gender. We want to say gender, age, and weight. These are our desired variable. Let's say we want gender, age, and weight. So in order to do so, our data set is what? COVID clean. That's called clean. We pipe it into what? Select. And then we put our variable. Say we wanted to see gender. The moment you're typing gender, it appears, comma. So you separate them by a comma. Want to see what again? Age. Yes. The moment you're typing, you're going to be seeing them pop up. Last one we say wanted to see what? Weight. Kg. So if I run this, I'm going to see the result in my console as usual. So I'm going to see only three desired variable of interest: gender, age in years, and weight in kg. This is how we use the select to select desired variable of interest. We can also use the select to deselect desired variables, and it's still almost the same template, which is COVID clean, pipe it into select, and then let's say we don't want to say epic number because usually we don't use it in our analysis. So we don't want to see epi number. We just put minus sign in front of the variable name. So epi number. If I run this, I'm going to see every other variable except epi number. That means my first variable will be gender, age in years, weight in kg. If I move down a bit, sorry, gender here, age in years, weight in kg, country, marital status, date of onset. So I won't see epi number because I've deselected it from my data set. That's how we can use the selected. Third one is to reorder variables. Let's say we want to see age in years as our first variable, and then every other thing can follow. We can use the same format, same templates. COVID, our data set, pipe it into what? Select. And then since we want to say age in years first, then every other thing, we can let's even go a step further by saying want to say age in years first, weight in kg, then want to say gender, then every other thing can follow. The way to do that is to what? Select what we want to see first, which is age in years, comma, weight in kg, comma, gender, comma, and then since we want to see everything, there's a function called everything, right? So as it's a function, it comes with this open and close bracket. Then we close the bracket for the select. When we run this, we're going to say age in years, these three variables first, then every other thing will follow. Let's see. So we have run the code. It appears in our console. So this is the code we ran. Reorder variables. You can see age in years comes first, followed by weight in kg, then gender, then epi number, country, and the rest follow. So this is how we can use select to reorder variables based on our desired interest. The fourth way we can use select is to actually conditionally select variables, right? So let's say you're working with a data set that has a lot of dates. You can just use a helper select function to just select only variables that contain date. So there are about three, there are many select helper functions that we'll be looking at, but we'll be looking at three. The first is starts with, second is contains, third is ends with. So these are the three select helper functions we'll be looking at. Three select helper function we'll be looking at. So I'm going to comment on them so that it doesn't affect um, my code. So let's start with starts with. So in order to conditionally select variables using the start with, I can conditionally select variables that starts with S, that starts with I, that starts with M, that start with a word, maybe date. So let me look at my data set. Let me see. I might want to start. I want to select based on, let's say I want to work with just date, and maybe there are numerous date variable. I can say COVID data set, COVID clean. I pipe it into what? Select. Select is one of my best functions because it's one of the select, and then we say we want to select variable that starts with. So let's say starts with. So I want start with date, assuming I have numerous date variable. If I run this, it's going to return only one variable because there's only one variable that starts with date. So if there are other variables that start with dates, select is going to feature all of them, and then you can now do your date calculation or your date comparison or your date difference with them. For this particular data set, we don't have any other data set that start with D except date of onset of symptoms. So let's try to say content. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a word, it can also be letter. So let's draw another one. So COVID clean pipe select. Inside my select, I want to use starts with let's say O in quotation mark. If I run this, it's going to return again because there's only one variable that starts with O, which is outcome. It can either be a letter, it can either be a word. Let's look at the second select helper function, which is called contain. So I'll run the same template, COVID clean pipe it to select, not sleep, select, and then we have what contains. So when I click on contains, I want to select uh the variables that contain s. So s, for example, I run. So let's see how many variables contain s. Age in years, marital status, date of onset of symptoms, vaccine dose. These are the variables that contain s for my data set. So select can help me fish them out. Great. So let's also look at variables that ends with. Let's say we want to see look at variable that ends with s. Ends with s. So there are three variables: age in years, marital status, and date of onset. You can see that the s is always at the This is how we use our select. Very amazing function. If you know these three cleaning functions already by now, you are building your cleaning skills already because you can use it. That means with these three skills, you have already started cleaning your data. You've cleaned you've standardized your variable names, you've renamed your variables. I mean, you're already doing great. Now let's look at another function called filter. If you've noticed, since we started using this independent cleaning function, we have not seen the use of mutate in them. That is why we keep emphasizing that they are called independent cleaning function. Again, you may not really find this in any EPI handbook or any R handbook, but it's just a fundamental way of teaching data cleaning in R, and it's easy best understood using this format. So we want to look at filter. How do we use filter? Now, why select acts on rows, on columns, on variable names? Filter works on rows based on one or more variable condition. So the template for using filter basically is data set. You pipe it into filter. So I break my code after using the pipe operator because it's continuous irrespective, and I don't want to be writing my code in a straight line. So whatever you have in your filter, you're filtering based on a given condition. So the condition must met. So that's the condition you are filtering by, and that's the basic template for filter. There are other things you put inside of filter, the logical operators and all of that, but basically this is the skeleton of how to use the filter. For data set, you pipe it into filter. So let's comment on this again so that it doesn't affect our code. Let's view our data set one more time actually. So let's say from our gender column, our gender variable, we want to filter only females. We want to say only the observation for females. How we can do that is by using the filter function. The filter function helps us to filter just for females from our data set. Let's work with our template and see. So our data set is what? COVID clean. We pipe it into what? Filter. And then we, so like I said, I usually want to break my code. And then inside the filter, I will want to say where gender, which is my variable name, is equal to male. Sorry, we said female. right? Then we run. My output on the console is basically every other observation for just females. If you check our gender role, you'll see only females, only females, only female. So if I want to view this in my source pane, I will pipe it into view. So I'm going to see that only females are captured here. Only females. So all the entire observations in this data set that I'm seeing now are just for females. So I'm saying age in years for just females, weight for just females, country for just females, marital status for females, date, everything for just female. This is how we use the field. So you may want to filter based on age, where age. So let's filter based on age. So our COVID, where age is greater than where age is greater than 30, right? So COVID clean. We want to use a pipe operator, then use a filter function. Very amazing function, filter. So age in years greater than 30, and then pipe it into view. So we can see that our age here, just we cannot see any age less than 30. Can you see how this function is actually working? And there's also the filter in Excel, and it's kind of those similar things. So we can see that there's filter for all the age greater than 30. In fact, you're not going to see 30. You're only going to see from 31 upward. So this is how we use the filter function. And then our last function is what? Distinct. And distinct is used to remove duplicate rows from our data set. So it's one of the important um, functions in data cleaning that you should always make sure you run, because you don't want to analyze your data with duplicate observations, duplicate rows. So in order to do so, the template is just data sets, type into distinct, great, and then you run. So let's comment on this and run distinct on our data set. Our data set is COVID underscore clean. So let's see if there's any duplicate rule. Now let's from here, our observation here is 43 observation and 9 variables. Now let's see what happens when we run the distinct function. So COVID underscore clean. I want to assign it so that I'm able to measure the. So let me say COVID new. So after, so that I see the difference, whether there's a difference between my COVID new and my COVID clean. So I assign it, and then our templates will be what's the data set we want to use. We want to run a distinct on, want to use it on COVID clean. So COVID underscore clean. So if you do this, we'll pipe it into what? The function distinct. We run this. So if we run this, we're going to have a new dataset called COVID new. But if we check, there's 43 observation in COVID clean, and then when we run distinct for COVID new, there are also 43 observations. What does that tell us? It tells us that from our data set, there are no duplicate rows. Amazing. You've learned 5 powerful independent cleaning function. That's amazing. With this function, you can be able to do a lot of cleaning processes. You can be able to do a lot of cleaning, from rows to filtering to variable names to standardizing them to changing them. So this is amazing, right? So in our next video, we'll be looking at also 5 independent functions, and that is when we're going to see how the mutate works. We're going to see how the mutate is being used inside some of those functions. For example, one of them is recode, and when we say it, we'll see there's a unique function called mutate. When we come the next class, when we come the next tutorial, we're going to explain all of this, and before you know, you've learned 10 new cleaning functions, and from then that's how we'll keep building our data cleaning skills. Thank you. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. It helps other R enthusiasts get to know more about these particular tutorials that we're posting on YouTube every single day. Thank you. See you on our next video on data cleaning using 5 independent cleaning functions.